Hello guys, this is part 2 of Zuul. Uh, if you haven't seen my previous video about Zuul, I would highly recommend you check out the video. I'm gonna add a link to it in the description below. In this video, I'm gonna cover a little bit of routing, which we talked about in the previous video. But the main focus in this video would be custom routing and filters. So the first, routing. So for automatic routing, you don't need to do anything else. Once you have Zuul, it takes care of it automatically. I'll show you in the code in a minute. And then the custom routing. So in the custom routing, you can map URLs to in different paths. For example, imagine you have an URL which is like the one on the top, Zuul gateway service B contact, and you want to map it differently. Maybe you want to shorten it. So instead of calling service B, maybe you want to have SB. So you map it this way, like here in your Zuul application YAML file. Under routes, you say, hey, if the URL sees SB, if there is SB in the URL, map that to service B. That's the custom routing. And the filters. Zuul has 3 filters, main filters: pre-filter, post-filter, routing filter. I think these are the 3 main. I think there is one more, error filter. So the pre-filter. So when the call comes in to Zuul actually calls on behalf of the client service. So pre-filter, it gives a chance for us to inspect the incoming request, maybe enforce some cross-cutting concerns like logging, security, etc. before we call the target service. So for example, imagine the service A is calling service B. Before Zuul calls service B on behalf of service A, it can inspect incoming request with pre-filter. So that's pre-filter. This is useful if you want to inspect incoming request, or maybe you want to propagate some kind of ID downstream. I don't know, for logging, some kind of correlation, those kind of things. And the post filter, it's actually comes into play once you receive a response back from the target service. So in our case, when service A is calling service B, and we get the Zuul gets the response back from service B, that's when Zuul post filter comes into play. Here you can actually inspect the response and alter it or maybe decorate it somehow. And it's a good. So the use case would be for pre and post filter is basically either to collect some kind of metrics or actually maybe some logging, maybe enforce some kind of security. Those are the cases for pre and post filter. And the third main filter is the route filter. This is useful for dynamic routing. So if you wanna do some kind of intelligent routing, imagine like you have multiple versions of a target service, service B, and you want to route it to version 1, version 2, version 3 based on certain criteria. So you use a route filter for that. So those are the main filters in Zuul. I'll show you how to use them. So this is my Zuul. So as you can see, this is my pre-filter. So the first thing to notice is when you write a filter in Zuul, they have to extend Zuul filter. As you can see here, my mouse is kind of acting weird. Zuul filter. And then you have to override 4 methods. The first one is filter type. In our case, this is a pre-filter, so pre. Filter order is 1, which means this one gets called first. And imagine if you have 2 pre-filters. So the one is filter order would be 1, other is 2. So one gets called after other. And should filter, this is a boolean. So basically, is this filter enabled or not? And the run, whatever is in run, that gets executed. So in my case, in this example, I'm printing a hey, This is a pre-filter, print out request URI, and then I'm also adding, once a request comes in, I'm also adding some ID to the header. So that's what I'm doing in my pre-filter. The post filter is exactly same, except that filter type is different. And then you have routing filter. Again, it's the same thing except the filter type. So this is the code, guys. So I'll show you how it works. So I'm calling it now. So I'm going to go to my Zuul. So as you can see, I should see 3 printouts. This is coming from the pre-filter, as pre-filter right here. It's printing out request URI right here, which is a SB contact. And then we have a routing filter. We printed out the same thing. And then the post filter. So one thing I want you to notice is add Zuul request header. So if you notice in the pre-filter, we are adding ID, test ID 123. I wanted to show you this, and you're retrieving it in the post filter. So basically, as you can see, hey, get Zuul header request and give me this ID, which we set in the pre-filter here, and we're printing that out. So that's what you're seeing here. So the only thing is, when the request comes to Zuul, it cannot modify the HTTP headers directly. So instead, Zuul gives you other things like Zuul request headers. So you have to add your IDs or whatever you want to add to the header to that. What it does is it actually maintains a separate map of HTTP headers. So I'm gonna add links to my previous video in the description below, guys. And that's pretty much it for Zuul. See you in the next video.